This is a walkthrough of the showroom at this year's National Taxidermy Association's convention and competition. I'm just personally videoing the whole showroom and I'm trying to get every piece here. I kind of went through quick at some points, so I really hope I didn't miss anything, and I'm so sorry if I did. There was right around 200 show pieces in this room. I don't know the exact number and it wasn't said, but if somebody wants to go through and count all these pieces throughout the video, that would be really awesome. These first few mounts that I'm videotaping, these are in the North American and Distinguished Taxidermists divisions. The North American division is the division where people can win the titles such as North American Champion, and so that's kind of like akin to the Masters in other competitions. The Distinguished Taxidermist division is where people with pieces that have won a medallion at the World Show can compete against each other. So pieces in that division have already earned titles, so they're going head to head. Like there was a bird against a possum and then a duck, so they were all in the same category going against each other. The other divisions, the North American division and the National division, they all have separate categories. For example, game heads are in their own category, whitetails in its own category. There's turkeys, birds, warm water fish, cold water fish, etc. So right here is still the North American division section of the showroom, and so these pieces here are at the master level. There were some really amazing pieces at the show in total, like this bird here, as you can see, is a whole display. It was like a workbench, and that bird was part of a reference book. Of course, there's always a lot of whitetail at these shows, and that's why they're in their own categories. It was really cool to see some doe mounts too, and these are really pretty. For whitetails, there's actually 4 different categories because there are so many of them. There is open mouth long-haired, open mouth short-haired, closed mouth long-haired, and closed mouth short-haired. For game heads, there is small game head and large game heads. So that antelope was in large game head, but something like a bobcat would be in small game head. So here we're starting to get into some other divisions. For example, this walleye right here is in the national division, and I'll come back to that in a moment because I actually just hopped right over to the collective artist division. So I'll go back to the national in a moment, but the collective artist division is where multiple taxidermists worked on the same piece together. For the other divisions, you have to complete all the work yourself, but the collective artist division is where you and another person, you can collaborate and work on the same piece together. So it's kind of cool. You can use both of your skill sets to complete one piece, or in this case here, there's 2 mounts on the same piece as a whole, but probably worked on both together. You will also see big pieces in this division like that buffalo. Something like that is just a lot easier if you have 2 people working on it. This one here is in the sculpture division, so the taxidermist that made that one, they completely made that sculpture, and that would probably later be turned into a form, but it's a division where you can enter a sculpture that you made. This one here, and there's another one behind it, but this one is actually in a different division. It was the everything but the skin division. Basically, you can have a commercial mannequin, and if you add the eyes and the clay and the ear butts, just everything you would do before it's actually mounted, like before you put the skin on, that's also a separate division. So this one here is also part of that division as well. So, and that kind of wraps up the more unique divisions, and we're back to the national division with this piece. So the national division, it's kind of like the open division or the professional division, and all these pieces are in their own categories like life size, game head, birds, different categories of fish. Folks who enter this division are hoping to win a title such as national champion. So remember, the North American division, you can win North American champion, and the national division, you can win national champion if you win your category. The competitors in the North American division and national division still have to score 90 points or above on their piece in order to win gold, silver, or bronze medallions for their category. So every category has the potential to give out a gold, silver, or bronze, and then of course the person who wins gold would win, and they could win the titles such as North American champion or national champion. Also, if there is no pieces in a category that score above 90, then there wouldn't be any medallions given out in that category, and there wouldn't be any titles earned either. Unfortunately, that did happen to a few categories at this show. It sometimes happens, but sometimes it can be a little bit controversial when it does happen. So that's just how some of the medallions and titles work at this national show currently. The rules change sometimes, and so other shows do things differently. This show does things this way for now. But enough about that. Let's get into all these pieces and I'll talk about them a little bit as we go. There was, like I said earlier, so many great pieces here, like this little squirrel. I loved that. And little fox here. That was another great piece. All these little life size are in the category of small life size. So that's like 10 pounds and under. And then you've got medium life size, which is 10 to 60 pounds, I believe. And then large life size is 60 pounds and above, if that makes sense. Like the live animal's weight as if it were alive, not the actual mount itself. Because depending on what that mount was made of, and most likely foam, it could be really light. Or if it was made with something more dense, it could be really heavy as well. I've had some questions on what a life-size mount is, and so life-size just means that it's the full body mount. Like this bobcat here, it has the full complete body, all 4 legs, and the whole tail, the whole head, versus like this shoulder mount here, these whitetail, it's just from the shoulders forward. So sometimes you'll even have a half life-size mount, and that's just where it has the full complete front legs and the head and shoulders. It really kind of depends on how much of that leg is showing. If it's not the complete full leg, then it would typically go into the game head or whitetail category. So it just kind of depends. But if it has all 4 legs, the whole body, then it would go into the life-size category. I believe at this show, if you have a half life-size mount, then it would go into either the game head category or whitetail category, depending on what it is. And some shows do that differently. I think some shows, they either have a subcategory or it goes into the life-size category. As you can see, we're in a lot of whitetails right now, a lot of good whitetails in this national division. And this one here in particular, look at those antlers. Lots of stickers and purling on the bases. Looks really cool. Another kind of terminology thing is that most of these mounts, they're on bases of some kind. Like you see, they've attached to a wooden base. They might have a fence post that they're connected to, and then that attaches to a base that's on the floor. And you would call those types of mounts, you call these floor pedestal mounts. And then if they are on a table, not the floor, you would call them a table pedestal mount. This deer in the back has a cool attachment point. Like as you can see, it's rubbing on that tree. And so somewhere on the neck or head is the attachment point that goes into that branch that's connected to the base. Throughout this whole video, you can see that there's a lot of cool bases that people come up with. Sometimes, like this one, it's a black base with a branch. Sometimes there's a lot of habitat attached to it. So throughout this whole video, make sure to check out the bases too, not just the taxidermy work, because there's a lot of cool work that goes into the bases. This lion sculpture here is actually an award. This award is for Taxidermist of the Year. It's one of the bigger awards that you can win at the show. So along with winning your category and winning a medallion, you can also win some bigger awards. Here's another award. This one's called the Wasco Award for the most artistic entry. So only one entry in the whole show gets it. Obviously, it's something people want to win because this is all an art show. So the most artistic entry gets that one. There's also some other major awards that you can win, such as Best of Show, People's Choice Awards. As we're going along too, you can see there's ribbons on each of the mounts. There's first, second, and third place ribbons. The ribbons are given out as you're judged against yourself. For example, if you score 90 points and above, you automatically get a blue ribbon. If you score 80 to 89, you get a red ribbon or second place. If you score 70 to 79, you get a third place ribbon. So multiple people, even in the same category, can have first place ribbons because that is judged based off your score and not the other competitors, if that makes sense. So like I said earlier, you have to have a score of 90 or above or a first place ribbon in order to officially win your category. I'm not a bird taxidermist, but even I can see some of these bird mounts are truly amazing and amazing quality and stuff like this. Like look at this one, it's a mandarin duck in a glass case and it's so pretty. At taxidermy shows, if you put something in a glass case, it does have to be able to come off in order to be judged, because sometimes the judges will actually feel certain parts of your mount to make sure things are correct, so they have to be able to handle it. A lot of the judging is done visually, but there are certain things that the judges feel for or kind of look for. For example, on mammals, they check for drumming, or maybe they check for if you have any pins left in the animal. Sometimes the judges will move the fur or feathers out of the way so that they can see or feel certain parts of the mount make sure those are all correct. It would be really great if they just judge things visually, but the judges do look and see if there's anything technically wrong with the mount, like when it was assembled, if there was issues like that, like if it's structurally sound. Also, the judges will feel the mount to see if it is still wet at all, because we do mount these animals when the skin is wet, and if it's wet at all, then that usually can result in a fatal flaw, or you could get disqualified. So all these mounts have to be super dry in order to be in the competition. Other things that can result in a fatal flaw are as if the skin wasn't preserved properly. For example, it might be dry, but if it wasn't tanned properly, then it could be stinky, and that's not acceptable in a competition either. So all these mounts just have to be totally dry, totally structurally sound, and they have to be obviously preserved well, and they are. There wasn't anything in this show, or most shows you don't see that, but it does happen sometimes. We're looking at all these beautiful bird mounts right now, and like I said earlier, I'm not a bird taxidermist, and I don't even know birds very well. I couldn't tell you what kind of species these ducks are. I know this one's a turkey. Couldn't tell you what kind of species of turkey it is, but all super well done and beautiful. It's cool to see all these bird mounts, and I appreciate them. Same with the fish. I don't know fish very well. This one here, super pretty, unique looking bird. So at any point in this video, if you see some cool birds, feel free to comment what kind of birds they are, what kind of species they are. I think I said earlier in the video too, turkeys are their own separate category, same as white-tailed deer. Here's some pretty mule deer here over in the corner. At this show, mule deer are actually in their own category as well, so you can compete against other whitetail only. At other shows, whitetail are typically in the game head category. And again, make sure you're checking out all these cool bases. For example, this one, it's like a big turkey call, like a box call that the turkey is standing on. There's some pretty habitat that this turkey is standing on, and I actually think I see some morel mushrooms in that habitat, so that's pretty neat. The base and habitat on this mule deer, it was really cool. Had some like burned char wood that it's laying on, so that was just really unique to see, and it was really well done. Even the leaves on that tree behind the mule deer were burnt or kind of charred to make it match the scenery. But then sometimes the bases have minimal habitat on them, but the base is more abstract. Or sometimes you can put snow on there, like that mallard. And yes, I actually do know what a mallard is. That's one of the few bird species that I do know. There were so many pretty ducks at this show. Again, I couldn't really tell you what species they are, so if you know, please comment down below what kind of species some of these birds are. Here's a pretty bobcat, and it's in the game head category, the small game head, and it does have a little more leg than normal, but again, because it's not the complete leg, it's still a game head. This bobcat, I believe, has the 2 front legs included, the full front legs, so that kind of mount is a half life-size mount. Some more pretty ducks. These actually won Best of Show at a different show. And then look at this turkey. The eyes are almost closed and it looks like it's roosting, so that's a pretty unique mount. Most of these birds are all life-size or full body birds because the whole body is present. Sometimes you see like just the head of a duck sticking out of like a knot hole. Sometimes you'll see those mounts, but typically birds are all full body, full life size. Here we got some bobcat game heads, a lot of bobcats at this show. So after this mount, I'm jumping back over to the North American division. This whole showroom was like a circle around the banquet tables, so I kind of started in a weird spot and then I just went counterclockwise around. So that's why I went through some North American division at the start, went to the national division and other divisions, and now we're back at the North American division. So remember, the North American division, it's kind of like the Masters division at a state show. It's the higher level. And also, I'm not a fish girl, so someone please tell me what kind of fish those were. I think they're walleye, but someone please let me know. This deer is pretty, velvet deer. Got some other pretty whitetail here. And I mentioned it earlier, but whitetail, they're separated into 4 categories: closed mouth, short hair, closed mouth, long hair, open mouth, short hair, open mouth, long hair. This was a super pretty whitetail. I loved this mount. This one, it's in closed mouth, long hair. We got some really pretty life-size bobcats right here. Super patterned up bobcats. You don't see those so often. This one here has a rattlesnake hanging out of its mouth. So on this piece, just the bobcat is judged, not the snake, unless you entered the snake also to be judged. This was a super pretty javelina, or peccary as they're sometimes called too, and those just got added to the big game records, so that's pretty neat. It's a big year for javelinas. Got another whitetail here, and a little fish in the back. Little cottontail rabbit. And then at this point, I was starting to hustle because they just opened up the banquet doors, so people were starting to funnel into the room, into the showroom and the banquet tables. So I was starting to just pick up the pace just a little bit. Got some really pretty fish here. I loved this piece. And then over on this table, some rattlesnakes. And these two snakes, they're actual skin mounts, not replica mounts. So that's the true rattlesnake skin and scales. Oh, and I actually did pan over back to this little rabbit. It was a life-size cottontail rabbit. And then we're gonna pan over here. We cannot forget this little piece. This is my personal piece, a little female northern koala. She is so special, and I am super honored to have done the work on this one myself, but we absolutely love the koala. Here's a little view of the whole base just to give it some flair. And because, well, you know what, this is my video, so just gonna show my piece off just a little bit more. But loved her, little koala, and she is going into a museum soon. But anyway, as you can see, people were funneling for the banquet. Got it done just in time. But let me know what your favorite piece is, and thanks for watching.